is episode 32. I think today's the 29th of March, and it is a glorious day. It's warm, it is sunny, there's not a cloud in the sky, and things are melting, which bodes well for many things, but not so much for dog walking on a dirt road. I feel like there's sand dunes in my household on the tile floor right now because when the dogs are out walking, it just kicks up so much dirt. So there's a lot of sweeping. I think Coey's finding a comfortable place. And vacuuming to be done. We'll go from this to black fly season, which I still use the vacuum because when the dogs come in with all the black flies, they get caught in their fur and then they loosen themselves and they gather in the windows, and I vacuum them up with the wand. Yes. Strategies for North Country living. So, did I welcome you? I hope I did. Both to new and returning viewers and listeners. If you didn't know, I also rip the audio from this and I post it as an audio file on iTunes where you can download it. I have a little bit of trouble getting that interface to work with the blog, so it looks like a link and you just click on it and I think it takes you to the player. So yes, I am going to move forward and it's amazing I have notes and yet somehow I still get lost in thought, like I don't know what I'm doing. So I think what I'm trying to figure out is if there was anything I needed to add to that, but I don't think there is. So I'm going to welcome a few people who introduced themselves in the thread, including Goldie Bear, and she is a Maine girl and has experience in Falmouth and Norway, Maine, and both of which correlate to myself. So I grew up in Cumberland, which is right near Falmouth, Maine, and my brother currently practices law in Norway, and I've spent some time there. There's a very sweet little yarn shop there called Fiber and Vine, and they sell wine and they sell yarns. There's also a great cafe there called the Nomad Cafe, and my brother likes to take me out there for lunch when I go to visit him. So Norway is a sweet little town. It's a very thriving artist community and lots of really sweet places to eat, and it's right on the doorway to the White Mountain area, White Mountain National Park in New Hampshire, and a lot of national forest land. Mount Washington, the tallest mountain in New England. The East Coast, I think, is there. So there's a lot of draw to that area. A couple ski resorts. So there's a lot going on. Very sweet little town. So thank you so much for introducing yourself. She also generously, I hope she doesn't mind that I share this, gifted me the Hansel pattern for the Hapalong with Knit British, and I very much appreciated finding that in my inbox. So thank you so much for your kind words of support and encouragement, and of course the gift. It will be put to good use, especially since I told her this. I found out that I've been looking for fleece for that project, knitting the Hansel, and I'm spinning, as some of you may know, the Hog Island fleece I picked up at Maryland Sheep and Wool. And to build on that theme, I'm pulling in other resources of critical breed fleeces, and I think I'm going to have to buy Santa Cruz. I'll talk a little bit more about this in the raw, which is snowballed a whole nother venture financially and technically, skillfully for me. So I'll talk a little bit about that. I also heard from I Knit for Mim, and she lives outside of Bath, England, and I'm glad you referenced that because we do have a Bath, Maine. She has spent some time in Shetland, which is great because that's the theme of the show this week, is Shetland all the time, Shetland yarn, Shetland. And so she has a very busy household full of critters and children, and very much is immersed in the craft. So glad that you took some time, put that all out there for me, and I thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you all for tuning in. So a couple more announcements. I had said also to Goldie Bear, and of course anybody who wants to come, the Hot Fly Retreat, Highlands on the Fly Retreat is happening October 15th through October 18th. It's happening right in my hometown. We'll reference it with Millinocket, but it's happening at the New England Outdoor Center, which is probably 6 hours from Boston. It is the same weekend as Rhinebeck. So if you're not going to Rhinebeck, but you're looking for a little adventure with a little less intensity of crowd experiences, then you can certainly come to the Highlands on the Fly retreat. It is 3 nights, and it's all the meals, the marketplace, and workshops. $3.99 for a shared room, $4.99 for private. And yeah, I think we're going to have a great time this year. So you can learn more about that at neoc.com. You can certainly register for that. It's $100 non-refundable deposit. Paid in full is due by the 24th of September. And give them a call. They're happy to do everything for you right online. We do have a day use experience price. So you can join the group on Ravelry, which is Highlands on the Fly, and ask me questions there. I'm not working at the offices right now. I used to, but I no longer work for them. I'm also co-sponsoring a retreat on what we call the Bold Coast of Maine, which is kind of the northern down east area. I say northern, I mean north of Bar Harbor. So we'll be right near Machiasport, and that's July 18th through the 22nd. And there are a couple spaces still available in some what we call overflow lodging with Miss Ruth Beal in her home. Her husband's actually one of the eminent marine biologists in the state. He has done a lot of work in that field, and she has opened up her home to us and is, I think, quite interesting and has water views. They're approximately 2 miles from the main area of the retreat, but easy to get to, and in some ways might be its own retreat should you want to steal away from the bigger house and have your own private experience. We have one married couple that are staying there, and there is room for another couple, partnership, whatever, to utilize that space. So we have 2 spaces available in the Ruth Beal home. So we have a group for tidal tours. As I said, we also have a group for Highlands on the Fly, and you can get more information there. I believe it's Tidal Tours Islands of Wool is the name of the group on Ravelry. So please feel free to go join that. You can also keep up to date with other retreats we'll be sponsoring. We're currently researching interest in sponsoring a fleece buying retreat for the Common Ground Fair. The Common Ground Fair is a large country fair that happens the 3rd weekend in September. It is put on by the Maine Organic Farmer and Gardeners Association, and it is spectacular. Everything there is organic. It's got vendors and food and farmers markets, and it's representative not just of Maine, but I think there's a huge proportion of Maine proprietors there. And there's animals and demonstrations and talks, but the fleece tent and the Wednesday spinners are really not to be missed, and it is a spectacle. I can't remember how many people go to this fair, but it's internationally renowned, and we are looking at getting together a space or a house and talking about buying fleece and having the opportunity to go to the fleece tent, etc. So it really is about the fair and wool. So anyway, let me know if you're interested in that. I'm happy to see if there's people that want to do this. I'm in the process of looking for a camp to stay at. Hopefully on the water in September in Maine would be just perfect. So I think that's it for administration. I'm going to go right into whips. Well, what was a whip when I wrote my notes, but is no longer. So I know, put down your notes. I want to capture all the light I can, and so I end up in this really uncomfortable, like all my stuff's in a rocking chair, and anyway. So I'm going to do finished objects. So I finished my Windswept by Emily Wessels of Handmade in the UK. And this I did out of Jameson's Shetland. Hello. And it fits like a charm. I'm really quite pleased with it. Just see if I can get you a little bit of the lace detail. And the power of Shetland wool, great rugged yarn. I use the word rugged in the most loving manner. And I guess why I choose that is because this is not necessarily a dual coated fleece. And I love that you can get the attributes of some of those primitive island breeds in this wool and still have a garment that you can wear right next to your skin. Now, I do wear some, I have a North Ronaldsy sweater I do not wear. I don't like just put on like a tank top underneath it, but I can just put a tank top on and then put this on over it. And anyway, I was knitting with this and it was kind of squinchy when it came off the needles. And man, I put that in a nice warm bath with just a little bit of eucalyptus lavender so that it would smell nice. And then I laid it flat. Didn't pin it, didn't block it, didn't hard block it. Just laid it flat. And it looks like it's been pressed. I mean, it bloomed and then oh man, it just came together. It was just magic. So anyway, I'm looking forward to wearing this, perhaps even to clinic tomorrow at school. And yeah, beautiful yarn. This is, like I said, is Jameson Shetland double knitting in the artichoke colorway. So that is finished and off the needles. And I guess subconsciously I was so excited about Shetland wool. I cast on the baby cables and big ones too by Suvi Simola. And I cast it on in Shetland yarn. I cast it on in Foula Shetland, from Foula, the isle, and the island of Foula. And this colorway, which is, and maybe Louise will correct me, I want to make it French. I think it's Miauge. And that is a variation of like a fawn color. It's not really showing out, it's blowing up in the light, but it's kind of a oatmeal fawn, a little bit more towards the oatmeal than the fawn color. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Foula and Shetland in Textiles in Time, just to give you a little bit of context about what makes this particularly special. I learned about this yarn from Kate Davies, and she had written an article or a blog post about knitting with this and a design that she did. So I'm really psyched about it. It's 24-gram balls, and which I think for me comes out to somewhere around 50 yards a piece. I had to order 24 of them. They were so lovely to work with when I ordered this. I think they were waiting for their clip to come back, and I had to wait a long time, and they had emailed me and they were like, don't worry, it's coming. And they were just so lovely and so personable, and made the whole experience just that much more special. And I will be ordering more of this yarn. It's considered a DK weight. I just cast this on today, and here it is. You can see, I think I've just done one turn of the cable here. So it's knitted top down, and I have chosen to knit the fitted version. She has a basic version, and then she has a fitted version when you buy the pattern. And what I've done is the raglan shaping, I have, per her instruction, I have color coded my stitch marker, and then each of these is a cable, and the tag corresponds to which cable. So I know that this is, you know, cable 1, cable 3, cable 4, so I can keep track of which cable it is, because it doesn't necessarily sequence in a chronological way that, and I'm really, really excited to work with this yarn. I love the way it's knitting up. I am knitting this, I did not knit a gauge swatch. I know. It's meant to be worn with 0 ease, and so I'm knitting it on the recommended needle size. I always go up a needle size, and I always get gauge, so I don't know why that is. And I know I'm a tight knitter, but I don't usually have to go up 2 needle sizes. It's usually 1 needle size. But I did not want to compromise the plushness and the loft of this yarn. So I've opted to knit the 40-inch size on the regular needle, hoping for somewhere between a 36 and a 38 circumference, bust circumference. So, and then as I knit it, I think I will take a look. As it's fitted, I will take a look at my increases on my way down towards my hips and see if I need to keep increasing to accommodate for that. So anyway, more Shetland. What else do I have on the needles? Did I bring anything else over here? Oh, I frogged. I frogged the canopy by Melody of Mandarin podcast. I'm going to knit it. It's a beautiful pattern, but I was striping it, as some of you may have seen in my last podcast. So I was striping that pattern. There was a stockinette portion and a lace portion, stockinette lace. And I was doing the stockinette in a gray and the lace in a beautiful rose brown. And I just didn't like the way it was coming out. It was breaking up the symmetry and the uniformity of that shawl for me. So I've ripped that out. I will find another yarn to do that in. And I have put together to cast on. I don't think I brought it over with me. No, because I haven't cast it on. I'm going to be doing the Adama cowl by Hilary Smith Kelly, or the Yarniad on Ravelry. And I'm going to be doing that out of a gray Romney mohair yarn. I'll talk more about that when I cast it on. But the real main reason I just have that one garment going on the needles is because I am participating in the Hapalong with Knit British, and that starts April 10th, and I am spinning the yarn for that, and I am spinning Hog Island fleece. And I think I can go... I wanted to mention in WIPs, maybe I'll mention it in Discoveries. So I'm spinning for the Hapalong with Louise, and who is in Shetland, and I just wanted to get that in there so I can say Shetland. I'm going to say Shetland a lot in textiles in time, but and I have spun up 2 ounces of that. I'm working on the other 2 ounces. I'm hoping that 4 ounces of a 2-ply will give me approximately 550 yards of a fingering weight. I don't know where that math came from or why I even want that. I just know that I want 550 yards of a fingering weight yarn, and I only want to have to spin 4 ounces. So, because that's how much I need of the main color for the Hansel. So here's the Hog Island. This is 2 ounces. And I have sourced some Gulf Coast native roving that is hopefully in the mail. I've been corresponding with the seller, and that is coming from a registered flock in South Georgia. So with any luck, it's sitting in my mailbox because it's been about 10 days. And I'm also in the process of looking at ordering some raw Santa Cruz fleece. So Hog Island, Santa Cruz, and the Gulf Coast native are all critical breed sheep, wool sheep in the United States. Hog Island and Santa Cruz were both reclaimed species, I guess you could say. They were feral species that were reclaimed from islands off coast, one off the east and one off the west coast of the United States. And they have been working with those particular breeds to bring them back. So I have not had a lot of luck with the Santa Cruz. I did find a farm in Oregon called Legacy Farm, and I've emailed them and I haven't heard from them. I did note that their clip happens in April, so perhaps I'll hear from them once that clip is finished. And I have found on the Spinning Loft website a couple fleeces. They do come in color. The Santa Cruz comes in variant colors. This one is brown. But I have learned from a couple resources, that to process this via the Fleece and Fiber Source book and also Beth Smith, I'm going to probably need to get combs. So I could lose a lot of the fleece in processing it on the drum carter. So I'm looking at purchasing mini combs, which mini combs are expensive and an investment. Not that I wouldn't use them for other fleeces, but if this is just kind of becoming a journey versus a project. And I'm okay with that. So I haven't moved on the purchase of the Santa Cruz, but I'm like this close to pulling the trigger on it. So then I would also have Navajo Churro in that fleece, thankfully sent by Nitty Girl One, or Heidi of Undead Yarn, which Navajo Churro sheep are considered threatened, and I have Jacob, American Jacob, which is considered threatened. So the Livestock Conservancy has critical, threatened, endangered, and I think recovering. So I will have covered almost all the breeds in critical and threatened if I pull in Navajo Churro and American Jacob, which I can do. So anyway, I just need to buck up and buy that raw fleece and get brave, because I think maybe I'm feeling a little intimidated by that fleece, or intimidated not by the work, not by the amount of time involved in that work, but ruining something. So I just need to get over it and do it. Let's see. Yeah, so the other thing I've been doing with my fleece and preparation is I've been preparing my own Icelandic bats. So this is from Rosebud, Rosie. And that's getting a little bit blown out. I'll come here in the shadow. So I've just been preparing her fleece. This is an amazing fleece. It doesn't act at all like Icelandic. In fact, it doesn't even feel representative of a double coat. The staple I've been working with, I think I may have showed this particular girl's fleece before, is very short and has a lot of crimp, and it's very springy. And I went through what I had washed, and I really couldn't find any representative tog in it, which is the long outer coat. So it's soft as a cloud. So anyway, I'm preparing that, and I'm going to be spinning that for fun. I'm going to try to spin a Lopi style single with this and see if I can I have 2 other frozen fleeces in the garage. They're fall shearing that I need to prepare, and I think I may have some gray in there. I also bought, well, I need more Icelandic fleece, obviously. And we all knew, if those of you who follow me on Instagram, we all knew this was coming home with me. I think it's funny, being an Icelandic owner and buying Icelandic fleece. But there is a registered flock of Icelandics at the University of Maine in Orono that is being used as part of a experimental research project on parasitology. So parasites in sheep come in a variety of forms. People often use the term worms. And I lost 2 of my girls to a pretty voracious worm that's happening here in our pastures. I can't remember if it's the hookworm. Came and went. The guy said it. I knew we had this problem. It's actually slightly resistant to some wormers that we've been using, and luckily our vet came and we were able to switch wormers and take care of the problem in my other sheep. So they're doing research on Icelandics, because Icelandics tend to be parasite resistant. And so part of the value-added piece of Icelandics, of course, is their fleece. So they have these 20 sheep, and they had their fleece milled and processed, and they're selling it to raise money to support the flock. So I was there, and I picked up 3 ounces of this beautiful charcoal gray. This fleece, while beautiful and strong, and I would call this fleece soft, still has elements of both its tog and its thell, so its outer and inner coat. You can probably even see, maybe not, but really so different than this fleece. And I know I've said this before, but I'm just going to say it again, and that is one of the beauties of processing your own fleece is you can work with Icelandic and work with something that is unique and soft. Or you can work with Icelandic and grab that strong, rugged dual coat for outerwear. Just because you work with Lopi, it does not mean that all Icelandic fleece is representative of scratchy, strong wool, if you will, for lack of better vocabulary, which I've yet to find. So I think there are some people who would touch this Icelandic bat and not know that it was Icelandic because of the nature of the fleece and the breeding, and for whatever reason. Part of this is that she's not bred, so maybe she has more opportunity to create finer protein for keratin for her fleece. The sheep may have been older. The sheep could be younger. So, I mean, there's a lot of variants that go into the texture and the production. So anyway, I just was really bowled over yet again by the diversity and complexity that can go into specific sheep and what they produce for you. Some of you know that I don't really do much with my winter clip. The sheep are on hay, they're not on grass. They do get a little bit of grain. They're inside. It's great for rug yarn perhaps, but it is their summer clip, what they grow in the summer and into the fall while they're on grass and grain, they're outside in the sunshine running around. It's just a completely different animal. So, did I get a little bit on a soapbox there? I'm sorry if I did. I'm just really passionate about Icelandic fleece and sheep, and I'm really passionate about breed specific, or it doesn't have to be breed specific because I work with, crossbreeds, but I am really happy that I have an opportunity to hand pick raw fleece or scoured individual fleeces, because I think it just makes a difference in my perception and diversity. I think it's only 5. I still have graduate school work to do. So anyway, sorry about the soapbox. That's more my gig. I think I may have said this before, because I can take a lot of flack sometimes. I don't own a crock pot, and I think sometimes when people hear that, I don't know where this is going or why these two things are connected. But it's my thing. Like, I don't own a crock pot. I don't know why. Maybe way back when I was all up traditional crock pots, it's an invention. I know, because I use a mixer and I use a food processor. So this is something, I don't know where it came from. But I don't own a crock pot. I've never used a crock pot. And so if I'm going to slow cook something, I slow cook it. I don't know, maybe it's a penance thing. I feel like I have to pay my dues. Anyway, I sometimes think when I talk about yarn and I talk about fleece and I talk about sheep, now I can get pretty passionate about it and I certainly have an opinion. But it's for me. It's not for anybody else to, share or feel like they have to agree with at all. And so I simply put it out there for consideration. And I don't want to sound righteous, I guess. And I think some people got a little upset about the crockpot comment at a party once. Like they felt like they had to defend their crockpot. And that is not the case at all. In fact, some of the best meals I've had over the past winter have been made in crockpots. And I am completely happy to admit that great food comes from crockpots. I just don't use one. And maybe I'll work through that. Maybe that this year I'll work through my crockpot issue. Anyway, I hope you've taken all of that with a grain of salt and have had at least a little bit of a chuckle at both, at my ridiculousness. Textiles and time. I decided that I'd talk a little bit about Shetland. I am certainly not an authority. I don't live there, and I think your questions could potentially be directed to Louise of Knit British, who lives in Shetland and has firsthand experience. But I wanted to add a little context to the fiber that I've been working with, both for myself, and I thought that you might appreciate that as well. So Shetland is located about 400 miles from the Arctic Circle off the coast of Scotland and Norway. It has over 100 islands, of which 15 are inhabited. And for more geographical context, it is located about 225 miles from the Norwegian coast. And if you were to travel northwest, headed towards the United States, you would need to travel 228 miles. And the first landfall you would hit is Faroe, and then Iceland, and then Greenland, and then Labrador, Canada, Newfoundland. So that just gives you a little bit of geographical boundary. To the south, of course, is Orkney. So approximately, I think, what did I say here? Fair Isle is the southernmost island of Shetland, and it is halfway between Shetland and North Ronaldsay, and it's approximately 100 miles south to Fair Isle, sorry. So southernmost tip of Shetland, 100 miles, Fair Isle, and then the next gig would be North Ronaldsay, and then North Ronaldsay is a part of Orkney, and Orkney is where I have a lot of connection with with Edie, the island of Edie. So it's typical to say Orkney and not the Orkney Islands, because Orkney means islands of the seals, or isles of the seals. So I think like saying Katahdin, where I live, which is the highest mountain in Maine, Katahdin. We don't say Mount Katahdin because Katahdin means great mountain, so you don't say mountain, great mountain. But I'm just being, again, pedantic about that. I just thought you might be interested to know that. Anyway, we're talking about Shetland, not Orkney. So Shetland's been inhabited for about 5,000 years, farming and fishing primarily being the cultural means of survival. And it was inhabited by Pictish people, similar to what we have in Orkney. I think I've talked about some of the Orcadian landmarks. I don't remember now, but Skara Brae, these are Neolithic sites that exist. The Tomb of Eagles would be another site reminiscent of the displacement and invasion by the Norse in the 9th century AD, around 800. So the Pictish people were either displaced or absorbed into this culture that was moving west from Scandinavia. And they also have sites you can visit, beehive tombs, and other such archaeological sites. So Shetland was under Norwegian control for about 600 years, as was Orkney. And I know I keep pulling that in, but I don't know, it has relevance for me. King Christian I mortgaged Shetland in 1469 as part of the dowry of his daughter for marriage to King James III of Scotland. And so that's how Shetland came into Scotland. And Orkney a year prior came into Scotland via the same way as dowry. And then those countries never retained them back, never got them back. So anyway, just interesting information about historically how that particular island group came into Shetland, even though they were traditionally a Norse culture and colony. And they retain a lot of that cultural heritage, both in their place name and in some of their celebrations. So I want to talk about Foula. And if I'm mispronouncing that, you can certainly correct me. It has a population of 30, which makes it that much more appealing to me. It's located 20 miles west of the Shetland Islands, and it is one of the most remote inhabited islands. I feel like I read that somewhere, but I will get to that when I talk a little bit more about the sheep heritage. One thing I did find out about Foula is it's the largest colony of great skuas. And skuas are, for lack of a better gull-like category, birds. We in Orkney, and they do in Shetland as well, we call them bonksies, and they're massive birds. They are known, and I've talked about this too before, they can wreak havoc on sheep populations. They're very opportunistic and carnivorous. So anyway, the Foula, like Shetland and Orkney, is very much a bird colony and a migratory bird sanctuary. And they have a lot of national sites and international sites, both landscape, but also for their wildlife. So Foula was conquered by the Norse in about 800 AD. And the sheep there have been indigenous and in isolation since time immemorial, and people were living there. So they have a very distinct breed of sheep, and I thought I would just give you a little information about them. So it says here, Foula is the most isolated inhabited island in Britain, and I'm getting this from the Foula Wool website where I ordered this yarn. Its dramatic silhouette, a visually distinctive and unique sight, exuding charm 20 miles distant on the western horizon of the Shetland Islands. In times past, the island stronghold was called Ultima Thule, the edge of the world, a training ground for would-be Viking princes and the last known refuge of the Old Norse language Norn. So I don't even know if Louise watches my podcast or listens, but if you would like to help with any of the enunciation of these place names, it would be greatly appreciated. So I think it is pronounced Thule because I have a Thule rack for my Outback, which I wonder if that means world. Anyway, little wonder then that Foula should also be home to the most traditional strain of the Shetland sheep. Farmed for their legendary fine wool qualities, the Northern European short-tailed sheep, derivative Shetland sheep, are much prized as the producers of world-famous Shetland wool, said to be so fine that a Shetland wool shawl could be drawn through a lady's wedding ring with ease. The passage of time has led to an inevitable modernization of the Shetland sheep flock. However, due to its extreme isolation and fiercely independent community spirit, the island of Foula has been fortunate to retain an exceptionally traditional strain of Shetland sheep, known locally as Foula sheep. The Foula sheep is a hardy animal, naturally wind and water type to the extreme conditions that nature throws at inhabitants of this wild and rugged island. They retain all of their primitive survival instincts to produce a sheep endowed with natural character galore. The Foula sheep is certain to boast the most vivid palette of naturally occurring Shetland wool on offer, which is matched in equal quantities by a natural exuberance for living that makes them a joy to behold, each one as unique as their wind-swept birthplace. So, that's a little awesome Shetland propaganda for you. What sets the Shetland sheep apart from so many other breeds of sheep is the diverse array of natural colors that can occur within a flock, and none more so than the Foula sheep flock. In fact, it often comes as a surprise to people when they learn that not all sheep are white. So their claim to fame is the distinctive colors of the Foula sheep. So we all know with most likely that sheep come in more than colors than white. And I was just going to see if I could find this particular color. So there's a lot of links, but I just thought I'd give you what they say about them. And they do have some of the most distinctive natural colored yarns. I'm going to go to the shop. And black, moret, fawn, miauget, or miauget, gray, light gray, and white they currently have right now in 25 gram yarn balls. They have 50 gram and 100 now. When I bought mine, it was just the 25. Anyway, gorgeous colors. So much fun to work with. And I don't know all the politics of Shetland sheep, Shetland coloring or distinctive colors, but that is what Foula is talking about on their website and their particular breed of Shetland sheep. So anyway, if you're interested, you can order yarn right from them. Like I said, they were a joy to work with. And the other thing about this particular breed is that they are hand-sheared sheep, so with hand clippers, which is very traditional, but the yarn is spun professionally and commercially. So anyway, check that out. That is my Textiles in Time. Oh, golly. What else? Oh, acquisitions and discoveries. So I got for my birthday, because it's coming up, I got a lot of things for my birthday, but I've been really non-acquisitioning for a while. So these are kind of my splash outs when I have a reason to. I just ordered from Kate Davies because the shipping has changed to the United States. Her Colors of Shetland, which I own digitally, but I feel like that's a book I want to own in hand. And yokes, so they're coming. And then Jody of One Loop and Fiber Arts, and now the Maine Yarn and Fiber Supply. It's her new shop. I'm very excited about it. Has had this buckwheat blossom coopworth in her shop, and I just had to have it. It's a really unique color. It's kind of a champagne color. It's not oatmeal and it's not fawn. It's, again, it's not even the same as the, well, it's a little bit lighter than that, but you can see the sheen on this coopworth in here. So this is Buckwheat Blossom. This is a DK light worsted, 250 yards, Coopworth. And I am just a Coopworth hound, but I wanted to use the other word, the Women of the Night word, because I love Coopworth. I love it. So I got that. I got enough for a sweater. And then I got the Icelandic. And my other discovery is, I didn't realize this, but Jody of One Lupin is hosting a juried fiber arts show to celebrate the opening of Maine Yarn and Fiber Supply. Now, she already has a yarn shop, but she's expanding it. And she really focuses on these interesting sourced yarns like this. I know she's already outsourcing yarns from flocks, Icelandic flocks and Romney flocks and island flocks. And so she has all of this very specific yarn, and it's gorgeous. And she's expanding this now into a shop. And we'll have, I think, more yarn. So not just smaller runs of one fleece here, one fleece there. She actually took one of my gray Icelandic fleeces and is doing a run of Fiber Trek fleece. And I'll be sure to keep you posted on that. So I'm really excited about it. So anyway, she's having a juried show, and I was under the impression it was like a fiber arts show, like you had to create art. And she said, no. She just wanted to show the community what fiber people were doing. And so I'm entering a piece to this show, and I have to send my picture off. I'm going to enter the Orion's Belt, which I did out of 3-ply Coopworth from Upton Yarns. And I'm entering that because it is a Maine yarn that is naturally dyed by a Maine dyer. And it is in a gorgeous cranberry red. And then that's the background. And then the kind of design work, the Celtic knot work, cable work, is done in a beautiful orange. I think the name of the colorway was Tiger Lily. So really stunning. It is massive, and I feel like it represents great Maine yarn. So I'm going to enter that into the show. It's a design by Paulina P, and it is Orion's Belt. And I think I've shown it on the, the bald eagle's flying over for fly fish Sunday. Ice fish Sunday, that's what I meant to say. And I will, if I have the opportunity, I will put a picture at the very end. So anyway, I'm excited about that. We'll go to the opening. There's the possibility I could win something, but really I'm just doing it to support my community and help broaden and educate other people in the state, and of course lend support to Jody's endeavor, which I strongly obviously I'm in favor of more. So, and Jody is one and the same who I'm running the Tidal Tours retreat with, and the Common Ground retreat, and with any luck, a Scottish retreat in 2016. So I've also had requests from people to go to Iceland, which wouldn't be that hard to do. So who knows what will happen. But anyway, Jody is an inspiration. She's an amazing dyer. She's a wet felter. You should check her out. She has a dye club. And she also does she's a yarn designer. She creates beautiful yarns with this state's fiber supply. Maine is an amazing place, and if you haven't had the opportunity to attend any of the Maine events, such as the Fiber Frolic, which I will be attending, I believe, on Sunday. I won't be there on Saturday. I have to do a audiology clinic at the Special Olympics, but I will be there on Sunday. And or the Common Ground Fair. I'm trying to think of other... I know, I'm blanking out because I'm blanking out. Spa. I'm just trying to think of really where Maine fiber fleece are represented. But Fiber Frolic would be a great place to start. So hopefully you'll check that out. It's the first weekend in June. I think that is it for me. I think I've talked about everything I'm participating in. Like I said, I listen to a ton of podcasts. I always have reflection on it. And of course I can't write it down because I'm driving. But, so I think I'm going to say goodbye and go get ready to do the rest of my homework. And I'm sorry it's been so long. I don't foresee any major projects in the next 2 weeks, so I hope to see you again in 2 weeks. And I have no flashy way to get out, no awesome tagline. Of course, I always wish you the best. And I have to say, I'm back, even after my hideous goodbye. I forgot to mention something very interesting. Kind of a Textiles in Time mini, which I think I will expand on, but I just wanted to point out, because I was just talking about Maine's great fiber background. Oh, I forgot about the other thing about fiber background and history. I got a great little article here from a listener, and she sent me some great old photos of her, let me get this straight, her great-grandfather, and her grandfather who sent this, her grandfather was the dentist to Louise Dickinson Rich of We Took to the Woods. Some of you may have heard me talking about that. But her great-grandfather operated a mill after hold on. Let me read this from the get-go. Henry is her great-grandfather, Henry Hescock, and he was Henry's son-in-law, and one of his brothers operated the mill after Henry had a stroke. The mill burned down at least twice, and that's all that's left now is some foundation. And this was in Phillips, Maine, and she just showed me some pictures of her family history. And this one says, wool carding and spinning. Hello, take a look at some of those people. Does that not look like Maine woolen town? Sorry, I was a little screwed up on the genealogy there. I was trying to read her writing fast. And it's gorgeous, beautiful cursive writing. I just couldn't figure it out fast enough. And here is her ancestors who were running the mill. Cloth, yarn, and hosiery, custom wool workers. And there's the mill. It's very typical of Maine. I know I said this before too, that Maine, because Maine economies and Maine villages and custom evolved around mills, and the way that has shaped the Maine mentality is very different than other towns in New Hampshire. I'm not so sure about New Hampshire, but in Vermont. Vermont grew up around parishes, and people were very entrepreneurial. So they went where the church was, created their town, and because they did that, they were farmers, or they had to create, hardware stores, etc., serving other people. So Maine is different. The mill came, and people worked for the mill. And mills are very interesting. Many of you may be familiar with some of the coal mill history, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and the company store, and you load 16 tons, and what do you get? Yeah, that type of thing, and you owe your soul to the company store. It's very similar here. We're going to talk more about that in Fiber Trek. I am going down to Lowell, Massachusetts, to go to the Maine Textile History Museum. I'm getting tired. History Museum for my birthday. I know, more birthday stuff. It's not really like that. It just so happens that Rob actually takes time off at my birthday, and so we were looking for something special to do. So I'm going down there to scout the Fiber Trek shoot and meet with people in the museum to help pull that shoot together, what we want it to look like. And I'm also going to be meeting with people who are in the area, and I'm really looking forward to that. It's been such a great support for me. Heather01851 and Billy Bass have been really supportive in getting me contacts and getting me organized and situated. So I'm looking forward to meeting them and maybe going to a yarn shop or two. But anyway, culturally, mills shape communities. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that happened and how mills shaped gender role and gender expectations, and how mills shifted farming communities and industrialized the East. So anyway, so here we are. Prices of work: roll carding, 8 cents a pound; carding and spinning, 20 cents per pound; carding, spinning, doubling, and twisting, 27 cents per pound; wool washing, 3 cents per pound; coloring, weaving, blanketing, wool batting made to order. So that just kind of gives you a little insight into what these advertisements look like. We would suggest that several lots be packed together and shipped direct to us. We will return all the work with bills to one address. On lots of 100 pounds, we will pay the freight one way, and on lots of 200 pounds, we will pay the freight both ways. Please see that your bundles are plainly marked with full directions for working each lot, stating what size you wish the yarn spun, and if to be doubled, the number of threads to be twisted together. We wish to announce to farmers and public generally, we have fine mill with the best of appliance for doing custom wool working in a most excellent manner. This is really great fun. Some of you may remember I talked about Tom Wessels and that there were 7 million sheep in Vermont in prior to 1820. So I mean, these places were everywhere. So here's a carding machine with a bat. And you can see, same as in Janny Estelle's mill on our first fiber trek, here comes the roving out. And I think this is a loom for blanketing. I'm not 100% sure because it's black and white. So anyway, I just wanted to add that because she made the time to put this together. And so funny, she has it addressed to Fiber Trek, Millinocket, Maine, and I got it. So how great is that? Anyway, thank you so much for sending that to me. She's from Massachusetts, obviously has roots in Maine, but it was really good fun, and I'm glad I got a chance to share it with you. So hopefully you were able to stick around and get that information. Anyway, I'm on my way out because I'm going to go heat up some soup and some soda bread for dinner. I'm going to do my homework. All right, take care. Bye.